So I think that's his brain. Modern schoolyards, broken homes, public streets, disheartening cells, even the great plains of the Bible. Human nature has always been one of survival, and while today survival can be bought through cash or connections, the most basic method was and will always be violence. A primal urge rooted so deeply in the human soul, in the human blood, that even today, with all our creatured comforts, violence will find a way to bleed into our favorite pastimes. It started before our time, when the Romans would collect lives for fame and fortune. Today, we like to imagine ourselves as civilized, with sports such as boxing with its many safety rules. The bloodlust even corrupts the nerdiest of hobbies. Violence in video games has always been a rather touchy subject. I remember when I was a child, my mother warned me about violent video games with a cautionary tale. She told me that a kid, no different than me, was playing a game where you control a bowling ball that rolls around killing people. The child played and played and played until he was so desensitized, he took a bowling ball and bashed his father's skull, and used everything he found inside to paint the walls. Even as a kid, I remember thinking, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. In fact, I've tried looking for this satanic bowling game, and I've had no luck. I'm pretty sure she got that story from like a Facebook mom group or something. Growing up, my mother would always buy into fear-mongering tactics, which is why I grew up a Nintendo lad. Shocking how I never once stomped a turtle or crashed a car. I remember turning 13 and thinking, wow, I'm finally old enough to ask for a Naruto video game that's rated T for teens. One time, I was hospitalized, right? And the staff rolled in an Xbox with like 20 games. Me and my father, we played Time Splitters, and we had a grand old time doing it. But when my mama found out I played an M-rating game, she was super upset with me. Luckily, since I was, hospitalized for like 3 days, she had mercy and she didn't ground me. Now, obviously, video games don't cause violence. The same way documentaries don't cause intelligence. But even so, there are lines that can be crossed. I remember I was in high school, and I heard about an adult-only rated game coming out called Hatred, back in like 2015. And I remember being so interested about a game that was so controversially unpleasant. I mean, I had to know what it was about. When it came out, I watched a YouTuber play it, probably Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, one of those two. And I was disappointed to find out that it wasn't as bad as I thought. Not saying I wanted a shocking, blasphemous, heretical game, but it wasn't anything special, just a twin-stick shooter. Now, the only thing that made me uncomfortable were the finishers. This would be like one of those ending moves where a victim would plead for their life before getting ripped away from this planet by you, the very real player. And that's when it clicked for me that the game was banned for sadism specifically. So, sadism is taking pleasure in pain being inflicted onto others. And although adult men being spanked is very funny, sadism is a very dangerous trait for a human to have, with real devastating examples being Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, or Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo, the leader of Los Narcos Satánicos. And in this sense, I understand why Hatred was deemed too much for children or teens developing emotional maturity. And then I found out about probably the most banned game on Earth, Manhunt 2. We've all heard about its upsetting, gratuitous violence, and we've all seen sketchy YouTube playthroughs of the game. But I thought to myself, why? Why would Rockstar make such a deliberately shocking game? For publicity? Money? Love? Maybe there's a story to this game, a deeper meaning, because games are really damn hard to make. And even with the censored version being banned across the globe, I can't think of any reason why Rockstar would want to pour money and man hours into a project just to have it mostly unplayable. So, I decided I wanted to play for myself. Find out if Manhunt 2 has a deeper meaning under the crimson coated concrete, or if it really is just a snuff game for sadistic nerds. Either way, I wanted to see if this game deserved to be banned. So, already, right off the bat, this game is impossible to find. On the Rockstar website, the only way to purchase it is through the PlayStation Portable store. Update, as I was recording this video, the buy now thing, as you can see I'm hovering, well you can't see my mouse. I'm clicking it, it no longer does anything, it doesn't do shit. I recorded that line, well no, I wrote the script a while ago, but now it doesn't do anything. But then, that takes us to the Sony store. And Manhunt is there, and at the time of this recording, it's on discount, but Manhunt 2 isn't. And you can't get Manhunt on Steam store either. The only place you can legitimately get Manhunt 2 is through Amazon, and once again, at the time that I was recording this, it was currently unavailable. And after finally getting my hands on a copy, it crashed immediately after trying to change the resolution. So, anyways, let's go through the story of this game, see if there's anything in here that's deemed bannable. We arrive at a not-so-progressive insane asylum during the thunderstorm. A crack of lightning lights up the sky and to the staff's horror, kills all the lights in the prison. After panicking, the staff are flushed with relief when the electricity kicks back on. The relief was short-lived since the blackout allowed most of the patients to escape their holding cells, and the building turns into a war between the unstable greens and the uncaring whites. Meanwhile, in the basement of the asylum, where the most dangerous men are buried, we meet our main playable character, Daniel Lamb, who, in a seemingly hysterical fit, attacks his doctor, Dr. White, leaving her on the ground, begging for help. Another patient, Leo Casper, comes into view telling Danny that we did it, and encourages him to leave with him. Coming up on a nurse, Leo tells Danny to kill him, while Danny, reluctantly, assures Leo that the nurse will help. But after a little persuasion, Danny takes his first kill, a moment so regretful he vomits on the spot. But Leo isn't satisfied. He convinces Danny that they need to escape, and insists that they will have to kill all who get in their way, be it a salary employee or an enraged lunatic. And after busting out, the two hop on a dump truck headed towards freedom. Ghosts. After leaving the dump truck, Leo tells Danny that they need to go to a familiar place. A place where Danny left himself a special drug that will help him remember. Remember what? Danny doesn't know, and Leo doesn't say. But what Leo does tell Danny is that they need to be careful. Especially Danny. He's an escaped patient and the project will be looking for him. After wandering through the streets, killing any project agent we come across, Danny arrives at a derelict house that seems to have burned up a long time ago and left to rot. Fragments of a happy family smoldering and abandoned. Leo is certain that the drug is inside and instructs Danny to look for it. But while searching, Danny suffers hallucinations that imply he knew this place more intimately at one point. After slaughtering more project agents, Danny finds a special drug in a box and injects himself with it. In the same box, Danny finds a matchbook advertising a strip club. Convinced that this is a clue, Danny coaxes Leo into going there. Sexual deviance. Breaking into the strip club and dispatching of the workers there, Danny realizes he remembers this place and travels to the basement. A big mistake since this booby bar hosts a torture dungeon where men are sawed, shocked, and treated like pincushions, while being filmed by inhuman husks with animal masks. Seemingly working for the project, with all the same logo being plastered on the wall. Danny finds a doctor named Judy, who recognizes and is shocked to see Danny there. She's even more shocked when Danny reveals that he's been talking to Leo, and that Leo is the only reason why I'm here. She hands Danny a key to his old safe house, but warns him to drop the situation, because the project is everywhere. Red light. Danny trusts the doctor and follows the trail to his old safe house. However, Leo is convinced the doctor is dangerous and only looking to protect herself. After shooting through more project members, the duo finds the safe house in rundown condition with a wall stamped with pictures, clues that Danny had left for himself. One picture is of Danny and a man named Michael. This sends Danny spiraling into a flashback. Best friends. In this flashback, Danny and Michael are on a boat with a very angry Danny, demanding that Michael remove the bridge. Michael calls for backup from the project, but is sent running when the project reveals they have order to kill both targets. Danny seems to have triggered a massive headache, so Leo takes over, saying that he'll take care of Michael. And for the first time, we play as Leo, chasing after Michael and killing him for the boat keys so we can escape the island. Safe house. Back in the present, Danny decides that he needs more answers and he sets off to find Judy, with Leo objecting again that Judy cannot be trusted. Bee's honeypot. The level starts with another flashback. A clean and clearly sane Danny is arguing with his wife in the house from ghosts before it was burnt down. We gather that a desperate Danny signed up for some program that could grant them all the money they need, but his wife thinks it's too dangerous. Their arguments turns into a screaming competition that scares their kids, and Danny is left alone to bemoan his wife's lack of support. Back in the present, Danny and Leo go to a sleazy motel where Judy should be. But when they arrive, Danny realizes the hotel is in cahoots with the project, so he fights his way through to reach Judy, who is running in fear, believing Danny is here to harm her. But when Danny corners her on the roof, she tells him he can't trust anyone. But before explaining anything else, she is shot by somebody off-screen. Assassination. In another flashback, Danny and Leo snipe a man from the window of a massive building, likely a member of the project. Once again, we play as Leo and gun through an army of project members before escaping into the sewer. Most Wanted. Back to the present, after Judy gets shot, Danny and Leo escape a legion of hillbillies trying to get to the source of the issue, the project's main laboratory. Cleansing ritual. In another flashback, we take control of Leo. Sensing a pattern yet? Danny and Leo are on the run, and Leo comes up with a plan to destroy their records in order to escape the project. They travel to a storage unit rented by the project and burn all data relating to Leo Casper and Daniel Lamb. Origins. The duo makes it to the project's main lab where we see freaky stuff all theming around mind control. Things like monkey brains, subliminal messaging, literal mind control lectures, and, other stuff found in Chinese laboratories. While searching for Pikmin, he suddenly combs over the loudspeaker, uttering a kill phrase that flips Danny off like a light. After being captured, Danny escapes his holding cell and destroys every loudspeaker he can, managing to subdue Pikmin, but that's when Danny gets tired and Leo takes over, demanding that the doctor removes the Pikmin bridge. But Pikmin only wants to speak to Daniel. As we continue talking to Pikmin, he tries to speak the kill phrase again, which angers Leo to the point of killing him. Now, the trail has gone completely cold. And in another flashback, we see some doctors discussing an operation. Broadcast interrupted. After Leo kills Pikmin, he steals a bunch of tapes and takes them over to a TV station to find a way to help Danny. Also, he kills everybody there in a sadistic fashion, but he does show off his weeb side a little bit. And after learning nothing, the duo decide to try Dr. White, who survives Leo's first attack, the only remaining member of the project. Altered state. Escaping into a Western TV show set, the duo need to shoot through more swarms of bloodhounds in order to get to Dr. White, but she manages to subdue Danny. Danny then wakes up in a room without Leo, and this makes him pretty upset. Domestic disturbance. Here, Dr. White describes who exactly Leo is, and to the more observant gamers, this may have been obvious, but Leo was never real. He was just a personality that took over Danny's body when he would experience a mental break. See, Danny was originally a scientist on the Pikmin project, a super secret government experiment to create the perfect assassin by implanting a killer personality into a regular civilian's head through a device called the Pikmin Bridge. In theory, the patient would be totally normal until hearing the sleeper phrase. Then, the altered personality will take control of the body, complete the mission, and then return dormant with the kill phrase. And the patient would be back to normal and have no memory of what happened when the agent took over, thusly being immune to interrogation. When the government was threatening to cut the funding for the project, Danny volunteered as the civilian in order to keep his family financially stable. The major malfunction was that when Leo was implanted into Danny's head, they could communicate with each other, and Leo would forcibly take over Danny's body without the sleeper phrase. The second big issue was that Leo had no intention to be a lapdog. He was an ex-government agent that slowly lost his humanity after so many assassinations. Leo was intelligent but lusting for murder. Dr. White encourages Danny to look into Leo's memory, and then we play as him for one last time. The psychopath is lurking through a neighborhood, killing cops and anybody who happens to be in his way. In the end, he travels to Daniel's house and murders his wife, all while she begs her sweet husband Danny to stop. The project captures Leo and burns down the house to cover the tracks. Personality clash. With this revelation, Danny is determined to fight Leo to regain control of his psyche. He enters into a dream where he's in a graveyard filled with the haunted visions of victims that Leo killed with Danny's body. And as Danny fights away through his literal demons, Leo taunts him, goading Danny that he's at fault for all these deaths. And at the end, Danny finds his wife's corpse, who forgives Danny, knowing that it wasn't his fault that she was murdered. Danny buries his wife and beats the living hell out of Leo with a shovel. Danny then wakes up in the middle of a road with no memory. He has a piece of paper with him. It says, "Your name is David Joyner. You live at 526 Hope Street, apartment B." And reluctantly, Danny walks away into the sunset, into a new life. Honestly, a great story. There's even some symbolism we can pick up right off the bat with just the names alone. Daniel Lamb, a gentle person. Leo Casper, a violent predator who is now a ghost. David Joyner, the final product of two joined personalities. Because even though Leo still lives in Danny, Danny manages to overpower Leo and keep his body for himself. So, it's a shame that this game was banned for its massive violence. Oh, wait a minute. Mortal Kombat 11 is way more violent than this. Wait, why was this game banned again? Oh, violence? I mean, yeah, sure, violence is a massive part of the game, but I mean, there was only like one kill that kind of made me upset, but the game was honestly not so bad compared to what is available today. So, because of that, I decided to look deeper into the reasons that this game was banned, and I found some pretty damn silly stuff. In fact, this game was in hot water before it was even available. Turns out that the original game, Manhunt, available on the Nintendo Wii, was used as evidence in a murder trial. And this is 2004 fear culture. Stefan Pakira was just like any other 14-year-old nerd back then, until his life was tragically cut short by his friend Warren LeBlanc, who took a hammer and mercilessly swung it until Pakira stopped moving. The media was attracted to the story like moths to a flame because back then, this was the era of false media stories with no internet to debunk or common sense to be found. And if capitalizing on a child's death wasn't scummy enough, the media found out that the killer LeBlanc owned a copy of a violent video game called Manhunt, and it was all gravy from there. Parents were outraged that kids were able to freely walk into stores and walk out with baby's first interactive murder simulator. And even though we've already had big scandals like the Mortal Kombat controversy close to a decade ago, people still weren't willing to give up their irrational fear of red pixels. And even though it was proven by the UK police that the video game had nothing to do with it because A, the official reason for the crime was drug-related robbery, and B, LeBlanc didn't even own a copy of Manhunt to begin with. But even so, it didn't stop stubborn jackasses from blaming all the world's problems on violent video games. So, when Manhunt 2 was announced, it relit the pathetic wails of ignorant foggies with my favorite man of all time, Jack Thompson. Ooh, Jack Thompson, I can 100% describe this man as a wet blanket. If he was born 100 years ago, he would protest the creation of the automobile. Now, if he was born 100 million years ago, he'd be protesting the use of fire. This bipedal snail was against anything hip, from video games to rap music to baby making, and Howard Stern himself. So, when Manhunt 2 was announced, he said, he vowed to make sure it never saw the light of day. A direct quote being, I have been asked by individuals in the United Kingdom to help stop the distribution of Take-Two Rockstar's hyper-violent video game, Manhunt 2, in this country throughout this summer. The game will feature stealth murder and torture. The last version allowed suffocation of victims with plastic bags. The original Manhunt was responsible for the bludgeoning death of a British youth by his friend who obsessively played the game. The killer used a hammer, just as in the game he played. Take-Two Rockstar, anticipating the firestorm of criticism with the release of the Murder Simulator sequel, is lying to the public on both sides of the pond, stating this week that the game had nothing to do with the murder. Wow. Using a child's death to push your own antiquated views, huh? That's classy. So, Thompson wasn't even close to done, though. On March 10th, Thompson filed a lawsuit on Take-Two Rockstar, trying to ban Manhunt 2 and GTA 4 for being public nuisances. And on March 16, Take-Two petitioned the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida to block the impending lawsuit, on the grounds that, and once again I quote, video games purchased for private entertainment could not be considered public nuisances. I just love that sentence. That's such a stupid sentence. And literally the very next day, Thompson posted on his little diary website, I have been praying, literally, that Take-Two and its lawyers would do something so stupid that a misstep would enable me to destroy Take-Two. The pit Take-Two has dug for itself will be patently clear next week when I strike back. This guy thinks he's Emperor Palpatine. So, on the 21st of March, Emperor Thompson filed a countersuit accusing Take-Two of multiple violations of the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, RICO for short. Specifically, he accused Take-Two of a continued effort to violate his personal constitutional rights. And on top of that, he claimed that the Entertainment Software Association, Penny Arcade, IGN, GamesPolitics.com, GameSpot, GameSpy, Eurogamer, Kotaku, Blank Rome, and the U.S. Justice Department were collaborating and conspiring with Take-Two to commit racketeering activities. Oh my sweet lord. And to top it all off, in his official countersuit called the employees of Rockstar North, you know, the nerds in fluffy sweaters, he called them Scottish sociopaths sipping their single malt Gillette in between brainstorming software programming sessions. But his claim was thrown out almost immediately for many reasons, you know, including attack of character. But My absolute favorite reason, and once again I quote, they claim that claim was weakened by several factual errors contained within it, meaning that homie doesn't even know how to spell. But even through all that, through the fire and the flames, Thompson still wasn't done. This man wrote a letter to Wendy's CEO, the burger place, Wendy's. He wrote a letter to the CEO at the time, Carrie Anderson, begging her to pull promotional children toys for Wii games like Excite Truck, Wii Sports, and Super Mario Galaxy. And you want to know why? Because those games were on the Wii. And guess what else is on the Wii? Manhunt 2. You gotta throw the whole damn console away now. So guess how Anderson responded? She left his dog ass on red like he was a misswipe on Tinder. She didn't even respond to him. So Big Daddy Chatty Thompson decided to go cry to the Florida Attorney General at the time, Bill McCollum, and Florida Governor at the time, Charlie Crist, in a letter that said, and once again, I'm not making any of this up. None of this has been made up. Florida retailers are... Oh, wait, I forgot the voice. Florida retailers are scheduled to sell a very violent video game called Manhunt 2, which will be available, remarkably, for play on the kids-friendly Nintendo Wii gaming platform. The Wii device does not utilize traditional push-button game controllers, but instead utilizes handheld motion capture devices. It is a training device. He actually linked Wii motion controls to actual fucking murder training. But you know what makes sense? Wii tennis? That made me a violent child. But that was Thompson's last crack on Manhunt 2. And don't worry, everybody got tired of Thompson real quick. The Florida Supreme Court described most of his filings as repetitive, frivolous, and insulting to the integrity of the court. And on March 20th, 2008, the Florida Supreme Court imposed sanctions on Thompson, requiring that any of his future filings in the court be signed by another member of the Florida bar other than himself. But they got so sick of Thompson that they straight up banned him from being a lawyer 4 months in, stating inappropriate conduct, including making false statements to tribunals and disregarding and humiliating litigants. So, good riddance, Jack Trunchbull. But Thompson wasn't the only mentally lacking gaming hater with a seat in politics. Turns out that the 2016 presidential candidate for the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton, was also on the bandwagon, writing a letter to the ESRB asking them to change the rating of the game to AO. So, is that it? Is this another classic tale of politician boomers ruining all the fun? Well, actually no, because there was one voice of reason, and that was coming from the BBFC director, David Cook. Cookie? I'm not sure. I'm going to stick with Cook. The BBFC, British Board of Film Classification, is a non-governmental organization founded by the film industry in 1912 and responsible for the national classifications and censorship of films exhibited at cinemas and video works released on physical media within the United Kingdom. That includes video games. Cook issued a statement that had some sound arguments, one being, Manhunt 2 is distinguishable from recent high-end video games by its unremitting bleakness and callousness of tone in an overall game context, which constantly encourages visceral killings with exceptionally little alleviation or distancing. There is sustained and cumulative casual sadism in the way in which these killings are committed and encouraged in the game. Although the difference should not be exaggerated, the fact of the game's unrelenting focus on stalking and brutal slaying, and the sheer lack of alternate pleasures on offer to the gamer. Yo, real quick, I had to read that thing like 7 times. There are so many big words in there. But basically, Cook said that the main reason for Manhunt's 2 ban for the glorification of violence, which, is true, seeing how Leo constantly pressures Danny into killing, and the more violent the murder, the more points you get, baby boy. They even bring in the alternate ending that's unlocked on the hard difficulty, or if the player kills too many civilians throughout the game, resulting in the final battle being played from Leo's perspective. He successfully destroys Daniel's personality and wakes up in control of Danny's mind and body. White, believing that she's speaking to Daniel, asks him if he's okay, to which he replies that he's keen to get back to working on the bridge. And as he looks himself in the mirror, Danny sees Leo's reflection looking back at him. So basically a secret ending in which evil has won. Rockstar replied by saying that they were being treated unfairly since movies like Saw and Hostel were still on video rental shelves, and argued that those movies were way more violent because it was actually humans being harmed, and not a bunch of sharp-looking potatoes, which is another very valid argument. But the BBFC counters by saying that in those movies, we do not glorify the killers. The audience is supposed to relate to the victims and root for the survival of them, while in Manhunt 2, you are actively rewarded by causing harm, which, once again, is a very reasonable argument. Although I will have to say that the story was not about a ravenous killer, it was about an innocent man losing his mind to a ravenous killer. But, you know, what do I know, right? Well, it turns out I don't know much, because there was an uncensored version of the game that was allowed in major markets that had ugly blurs and filters over style kills, and removed several executions and animations. But even then, the censored version was banned all over the globe by countries like Ireland, for example. On October 31st, 2009, Halloween, Rockstar started taking pre-orders for a PC version of the original unedited game through Direct2Drive, an online game store offering PC games via direct download. It was released in the US on the 6th of November 2009 with an adults-only rating. However, the game was later removed from the service in July 2011 after Direct2Drive was purchased by GameFly. And due to GameFly's policy of not carrying adult-only rated games, the unmodified version of the game remains banned in the UK and Ireland. On the 25th of November 2011, the uncut version was again available in Gamersgate, but only for select regions. And in March 2015, the adult-only version of the game was prohibited from being broadcast on the live stream service Twitch. And to this day, I've tried, you cannot get the game off of Gamersgate. So, what's in the future for our darling Massacre Media? Well, nothing. As of 2012, Take-Two has denied any and all plans to continue the series, leaving Manhunt 2 one of the hardest games to get your hands on, and for no good reason at all. Was this game violent? Very. Inappropriate? Indubitably. Deserving of the ban hammer? Bar none. Or what other B word stands for no. I like alliteration. For the kinds of games we see today, like Agony and the God of War games, violence from Manhunt 2 is nothing that special. But this was a game that was drowned by fear culture. From false evidence to feverishly frantic lawmen, the nail in the coffin for Manhunt was a creature from the outside. Much like how Danny was tortured by an invisible force, the abstract hysteria of humans buried Manhunt 2. And with that out of the way, the video's over. Thank you if you watched this long. If anybody out there is like an actual fan of mine, sorry it took so long for this video to come out. A lot of things came up, a lot of things. And I honestly was trying to experiment with too many things while making this video, which in the end just made the completion time take so much more than I would have expected. But I had a great time. This was fun. This was honestly fun, and I want to do more stuff like this. Maybe bigger, maybe better. I still want to experiment because I don't want to make anybody wait like a month between videos. But if I make good stuff, maybe that'll be worth it. That's just something I gotta figure out on my own. So thank you for listening. Go ahead, check out my other videos. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I got everything in the description. I got a podcast and all that. Everybody's got a podcast. And have a wonderful night. Stay safe.